Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So we have now more and more leaks about the Xbox Series X. We have already seen the prototype, as you can see in the picture here. It's got ventilation from the backside and of course from the top, as we have already seen in the very first trailer release. Now that we have two ventilation sides, it's pretty much confirmed that the Series X is going to have a monster of a CPU and GPU, and that needs a lot of ventilation so that the device doesn't overheat and doesn't throttle and subsequently not perform as intended. From this website, PCGamesN.com, they say that there might be an internal PSU in the Microsoft Series X consoles or console, and then as you can see there is a 2-pin connector, and they speculate that it's going to generate too much heat that gamers have to be careful with how they put their device and where. In fact, here they say towards the very end of the article, we're already placing bets on the number of Xbox Series X machines that overheat simply because someone has left a pile of games or game boxes on top of the vents, which is not very convincing as an excuse to call out this design, because I think if someone leaves a pile of game boxes on their console, it's their responsibility and their responsibility alone. The responsibility of the console makers here, in this case Microsoft, is to make a console that is well ventilated so that it ensures the best performance possible. And there is even something else, which is that some people are freaking out that the Xbox Series X won't have the best SSD, and they say here, as the title suggests, the Xbox Series X budget PCIe 4.0 SSD could be half the speed of the PS5. And then I have seen some YouTubers freak out about this, and they say that this could be big trouble and a game changer. I'm not. Quite honestly, I'm not. Let's just see what's in this article as well, and then I'll give also my personal opinion about it. The device here in question that the Xbox Series X is, supposedly going to have, it's not confirmed, this is just pure speculation. It's called Phison PS5019E19T, and they say that it's a budget SSD controller that's been designed specifically to connect over the PCIe 4.0 interface. It doesn't use a DRAM cache chip, and because it's essentially been a PCIe 3.0 controller, it doesn't have the performance we'd expect from a pure sane PCIe 4.0 device. And then here we have some details about this Phison thing, and it says it has a peak sequential read-write speeds of 3,700 megabytes per second and 3,000 megabytes per second respectively. And they say that it isn't far off the performance of the super affordable AdLink $70 drive topping on their list of the best SSDs for gaming. Of course, all of this, at least to me, is just not convincing that the Xbox Series X, if it has a slower SSD, it will suffer. What I am more concerned about here is actually what Sony is doing, because they are claiming that this new ultra-fast SSD that they have, it's going to be a game changer and it's going to make developers make games run a lot better. not just loading wise, but it's also from how they make their games and not duplicate some game files, etc., etc. And at least from what I see here is that the Xbox Series X leaks pretty much confirm that its hardware is pretty capable, and then they talk about the hardware much more than Sony does. Sony only talks about the SSD, and I am afraid it might just turn out like the Google Stadia thing, you know, Google saying that, yeah, we have super computers, everything is on the cloud, and everyone can enjoy 4K gaming, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, the developers themselves couldn't achieve what was marketed. And then we might have Sony say at a later time, yeah, the developers didn't take full advantage of our hardware, etc., etc. There is also the fact that people spend a lot of money on CPUs and GPUs to get the best performance possible. An SSD isn't going to be that big of a game changer. There was an old article in Eurogamer in which they explained that the SSD was a very good choice for the PS3 back then, and they gave an example of some games that run better with SSD, and then they concluded that, you know, next gen, which is this current generation, PS4 and Xbox One, should have SSDs by all means. Turns out that they didn't. Now we are seeing Sony placing all its bets on this SSD. To me, this is concerning, to be quite honest. And I think Microsoft isn't going to be in a bad situation if they have a less speedy SSD. I mean, if this is as the speculations and as the article here outlines, if this is true, like the SSD on the Xbox Series X is going to be half the speed of the PS5, then so what? Look at these read and write times. They are a lot better, miles better than mechanical drives. This is on the one hand. On the other hand, let's say, for example, if we look back at that leaked trailer in which Sony showed that the new console would load Spider-Man, for example, in less than a second, whereas it took probably 10 times more for the PS4 to launch or to load that game sequence. I mean, even if the Xbox Series X is half of what they say Sony could achieve, it's still very fast. It's still pretty damn fast. And then, for me, if they put some capable cheap SSD which does the job, and then make other parts better by spending more on them on their Xbox Series X console, that's going to be a lot better than placing your bets on a very fast SSD and then compromising in terms of CPU and GPU and then ventilation and console design. Anyway, this is all speculation, as I said, and it might not be 100% correct. We will see the upcoming news and hopefully some official news from official sources so that we can draw some solid conclusions. Until then, I still see this Xbox Series X as something very revolutionary console-wise. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe for more, and I will talk to you again soon. Have a good one.